Hi, here I wanted to look at George Soros, who was recently again in the news as his right-hand man Howard Rubin, accused by 6 women of running a human trafficking ring. This aside, George Soros was a Hungarian-born American billionaire investor and so-called philanthropist. As an investor, he specialized in forcing market events. So when in the early 1990s he broke the Bank of England, he made $1 billion. And another example, in the late 1990s, he was accused of having contributed and profited from the Asian financial crisis. In politics, he was a donor of recent Democratic presidential candidates, and through his Open Society Foundation, under the cover of advancing justice and access to public health and so on, he has been promoting the overturn of certain governments not in line with his progressive liberal agenda. For instance, he funded the Black Lives Matter riots to topple President Trump, and he promotes global migration to destabilize and overcome nationalism. Certainly an interesting character. Here I wanted to look at an interview clip in which he describes how he survived the Holocaust in Hungary. His Jewish father had him adopted by a Christian fake godfather, who he accompanied to confiscate property from the Jewish. He describes this time as the happiest time of his life. So here we want to understand better his character and his motivations and views, looking at his nonverbal communications. Okay, let's get started.
I am a player, and I think all players should be regulated. There have to be rules of the game. In the last 2 years, you've been blamed for financial collapse of Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, and Russia.
All of the above.
So here we saw a nice surprise look, raising the eyebrows, followed by a big happy smile.
In Russia,
Surprise and stutter.
All of the above.
All of the above.
And then happiness.
Are you that powerful?
No, I think there's a great misunderstanding.
The Prime Minister of Malaysia
Yes.
said that the region spent 40 years trying to build up its economy, and along comes a moron like Soros
Right.
with a lot of money.
Nice, he agreed to that. So he is extremely easy to read, yes? There's all kinds of stuff happening on his face. So he described himself as a player early, but in fact he would be a terrible poker player.
It's all over. He called you a criminal.
It's easier for him to blame an outside force. I think that I've been blamed for everything. I am basically there to make money.
So clearly he has no remorse for what he's doing, yeah? He's smiling and happy.
I think that I've been blamed for everything.
So he's blamed for everything and he's smiling. He's happy, he has no remorse.
I am basically there to...
And it's contagious, his smile, even he smiles. It's an odd moment to talk about something like that and smiling. He is forced to smile. He's mirroring George Soros.
to make money. I cannot and do not look at the social consequences.
Oh, that was important?
To make money. I cannot and do not look at the social consequences of what I do.
So he's certainly telling the truth. He's nodding. He's going forward with his head for additional emphasis. It's all congruent behavior. So he's completely telling openly the truth. He doesn't care about the human cost or social consequences. To understand this, he is essentially a 14-year-old boy speaking. This was told to him by his fake godfather to survive the situation, and that's what he has been telling himself from there on. He's still completely stuck in 1944. It's his key moment when he survived the Holocaust. It's a teenager speaking.
To understand the complexities and contradictions in his personality, you have to go back to the very beginning, to Budapest, where George Soros was born 68 years ago to parents who were wealthy, well-educated, and Jewish. When the Nazis occupied Budapest in 1944, George Soros' father was a successful lawyer. He lived on an island in the Danube and liked to commute to work in a rowboat. But knowing there were problems ahead for the Jews, he decided to split his family up. He bought them forged papers, and he bribed a government official to take 14-year-old George Soros in and swear that he was his Christian godson. But survival carried a heavy price tag. While hundreds of thousands of Hungarian Jews were being shipped off to the death camps, George Soros accompanied his phony godfather on his appointed rounds, confiscating property from the Jews. These are pictures from 1944 of what happened to George Soros's friends and neighbors.
You're a Hungarian Jew who escaped the Holocaust by posing as a Christian.
Right.
And you watched lots of people get shipped off to the death camps.
Right. I was 14 years old. And I would say that that's when my character was made.
So he's completely openly saying that.
And I would say that that's
when he tries to remember these times when he was 14, he often looks in the top right corner. That reminds one of that NLP pseudoscience theory, that neurological processes and are linked to linguistic processes, which again are linked to behavior. That there's a sort of a matching relationship between these different aspects. So whenever he's asked about this time when he was 14, he tends to look in this right top corner.
character was made.
In what way?
That one should think ahead, one should understand and anticipate event.
So again, here for emphasis, he raises the eyebrows and he moves forward. It's also a bit like telling a secret to move closer to the person you speak to.
One is threatened. It was a tremendous threat of evil. I mean, it was a very personal experience of evil.
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right.
Yeah, completely open, nodding, agreeing.
I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric.
So here he feels a bit attacked. So you see this chin thrust, and it's a very dominating pose.
For many.
So now he tries to remember again what it felt like when he was 14 years old. You see again the top right corner he's looking into.
Years. Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all. Maybe as a child you don't see the connection.
Again. And what you realize is that he stutters and pauses. So you can't really accuse him as a 14-year-old to have participated in this in order to survive. But the issue is he's now in his late 60s in this video and said he hasn't reflected upon it. He hasn't realized the complexity of this moment. He's completely single-minded, seeing only one perspective. So he literally is stuck at this time still.
But it created no problem at all.
No feeling of guilt.
No.
For example, that I'm Jewish, and here I am watching these people go. I could just as easily be there. I should be there. None of that.
He had a dismissive look, and now he's looking again up to the right top corner. So he's completely honest. He's like a 14-year-old teenager who hasn't really even learned how to lie. We didn't need to do that probably back then. So he was such a sheltered kid. You see this also because he doesn't come up with well-polished answers. He's actually thinking about this answer at this moment.
Well, of course, I could be on the other side, or I could be the one from whom the thing is being taken away.
So there's many seconds of pauses and stutter and speech errors. So one issue is also that his English is not particularly good. And the fact is that when he was 17, right after the war, he went to the London School of Economics, where he studied for many years. Actually, was a student of philosopher Karl Popper. He studied in London for 7 years. He got his Bachelor of Science and a Master's of Science. And so you would imagine when you go to England at such a young age, you would learn essentially perfect English. But his English is rather broken. This is like a signature that he's actually stuck at a certain age because of trauma when he was 14. So he's always pulled back to the past. He was not able to assimilate in England.
But there was no sense that I shouldn't be there because that was... Well, actually, funny way.
He can't come up with a clever, elegant answer. He's just stuttering around for, 20, 30 seconds. And then he falls back into his truth mode. He's completely smiling, honestly saying these were the good times.
Well, actually, funny way.
So happiness and the word funny, so completely misplaced considering the times. So when things are the opposite how normal people would behave, this is again a signature of trauma, and because the events have completely different meaning for him, and that's a signature of a psychopath, or in his case, let's say a sociopath. So society and the events have turned him into the person he is.
It's like in markets that if I weren't there, of course I wasn't doing it, but somebody else would be taking it away anyhow. In other words, whether I was there or not, I was only a spectator.
So spectator, we see his eyebrow go up and his head moves up slightly. So this is a moment of pride. He's proud of this time.
Taking it away anyhow. In other words, whether I was there or not, I was only a spectator.
Here.
Property was being taken away. So I had no role in taking away that property. So I had no sense of guilt.
Are you religious?
No.
Do you believe in God?
No.
So you saw again that he looked right top corner. Based on his truthful, congruent behavior, his speech errors, his broken English, his single-minded explanation how he sees the world, this really reflects the views of a 14-year-old. So that was a traumatic experience for him, and he's still stuck. To understand that behavior more, it's a bit like being a child and being abused by your own parents. So you completely depend on them for survival, and so you have to compartmentalize or develop a split personality to put it away, to be able to deal with it. So you need to believe that this is love, that your parents love you, otherwise you don't survive. And he stayed with this feeling his whole life, that it is okay to take from people and not worrying about the social and human consequences. Another similar example is the so-called Stockholm syndrome. There was a hostage situation after a bank robbery in 1973, and then the people in captivity, when they were freed, they didn't testify against their captors. This is similar. It's that moment when you're in captivity, you're completely depending on the criminals to survive, and you create such a strong bond, an emotional bond. The problem is he hasn't reflected much on that in the following decades, and so now with this mindset, this is completely ill-suited for any modern life. So he's doing a lot of damage with that approach. So that's my take on George Soros and his non-verbal communication. So he's essentially a truthful, honest sociopath. And it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on George Soros and how you think about him. And yeah, and I hope you enjoyed the video, and I talk to you next time. Bye.